Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Health Wire show. My name is Jason Berry, and I'm the editor of Digital Health Wire and the host of the show. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Bob Watson, who's the CEO of QHIN Trailblazer Health Gorilla. Bob, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Jason. We're always happy to chat.
So, Bob, it's been an exciting couple of months here in the world of interoperability and data exchange. We're seeing some new initiatives coming out of the White House. The framework that's kind of been talked about, that I've been talking a lot about in Digital Health Wire, has been TEFCA. And now we're seeing these new initiatives coming out of the White House. I guess the first question I want to get out of the way is the TEFCA dream still alive?
Look, the dream's alive, and whether it stays as TEFCA or becomes a CMS aligned network. I mean, the words aren't important. What's important is the outcome. Fundamentally, we believe that as good citizens, we have an obligation to our fellow citizens to make their individual health information available to their care providers in a timely fashion so that they get better patient care, period.
Mhm.
And TEFCA can do that.
So I'm a fan of everything I've read up on TEFCA, but I won't do it the injustice of explaining to the audience what it is, especially when I have you here. Could you kind of outline what is TEFCA and why is it important?
So, the words mean trusted exchange, framework, and common agreement. What's important in there is trusted exchange and common agreement. And, everybody worries about their financial information being hijacked by some nefarious character in some third world country. People also worry about their health information being stolen and used against them in some form or fashion. One of the things that came out of the original development of TEFCA was a focus on what's high trust certification.
Mhm.
And we had to build a trusted exchange framework. That's what the vendors have done and the marketplace has done. Now, there were preceding formal TEFCA, there were a couple of, not a couple, half a dozen or so of what I call legacy networks, which are primarily nonprofits that have been sharing data in a trusted environment. The construct of TEFCA gave us a broader format to do that. As we go forward, I think the difference and the reason I mean, I came out of retirement to do this. So just so we're clear, I
Mhm.
would have been perfectly happy playing golf every day,
Welcome
but
back.
yeah, some days. And but there are inside of what the administration's trying to accomplish is to put some teeth in TEFCA. I mean, one of the phrases that came out of it is that TEFCA is voluntary, but oh, by the way, not optional.
Mm.
Just,
How
so,
does that work?
well, I think we're figuring out because what they're doing is creating an environment that's pressuring people to not information block,
Mhm.
to share information that's rightly disclosed. You've done all the checks, like even in the one of the things in TEFCA, one of the proved use cases is individual access service. Well, you need to prove that the person making the request is actually Bob Watson.
Mm.
And you can use ID.me, you can use Clear. There's a bunch of ways to do it. It's pretty efficient. And this trust it creates an exchange environment where you verified the individual or you verified the physician that's requesting the information. And you transmit it in a way that, and this is where I think that what's really critical here is you have to deliver it to the caregiver in a format that he or she can actually use it.
Mm.
It has to be actionable. You can't just give a data dump.
Mhm.
It's not helpful, and they'll reject. The physicians will reject it. They won't use it. So one of the things in particular to our business that we focused on is creating a middle step in the delivery of the data where we've checked for deduplications, we've confirmed identities, we've, you know, only showing one visit may show up three different ways, so we're only give you one visit. But most importantly, if you run AI on top of it in the form of a chart search, you can highlight information that should be important to that particular physician.
Mhm.
And that what we have to do is figure out how to deliver collectively across the industry, deliver actionable information at the point of care.
Mhm. Do you feel that most providers or companies working in this space have like a firm understanding of how TEFCA works, or are there any misconceptions just kind of floating around that people might have the impression?
Well, the biggest misconception is that it's not important.
Mm,
And that's completely wrong. It's very important. It is, at the end of the day, for us, it's about the quality of the patient care. But in between that and the steps to get there, it's important because it becomes much more efficient in the caregiving process. If you deliver actionable AI-ready data to a physician at the point of care who can make a decision that's informed.
mm,
I mean, think about it. If you're an ER doc and somebody presents and you within seconds you can click and pull down the information on that patient, that's spectacular. Well, one of the things we're looking at, for example, is there a way to make this work in an ambulance? I mean, give that paramedic or that EMT the information about that patient that's there. Yes, they
mm,
may have just been in a car accident, but they have all these other comorbidities. Let's figure out how to, that's the ultimate for me. The
mm.
ultimate goal is I want the patients to get a better outcome.
Then it's a good goal to be striving toward. So we have TEFCA already pretty much established. People are on board or on board might be a
Onboarding,
little generous, but
onboarding.
people are aware of it. And then the White House comes and serves to much fanfare or to much ado the Make Health Tech Great Again event recently over the summer. What was the big push with Make Health Tech Great Again? And is it fully aligned with TEFCA or are there any conflicting points?
You know, look, I'm of the school of thought we should just make healthcare tech great, period.
Yeah, touche.
We'll worry about it again later. But it, and I think what's important that came out of it was this particular administration, for whatever reason, I believe at their core believes that they have an obligation to create an environment where healthcare information around individual patients flows freely so that there's a better outcome. I honestly believe they that's part of what they want to do. If you look at what I, it was one thing to see what happened at the DC thing, which
Hmm.
was showmanship. It was another. I'll probably get lambasted for saying that, but um, but what's really important is what happened after. The continued statements by Secretary Kennedy and by Dr. Oz and by Amy Gleason at Doge about, hey, we want to make this happen. And if you don't align, sort of the subtle message is if you don't align, this is where it's voluntary but not optional. If you don't align, you're going to get punished, which again is consistent with the attitude of the current administration. Again, whether or not we like it's not important. But in this case, I think it's important because if we put teeth in it, this system will start to flow. And what we're seeing in the marketplace today, we look at our own traffic. So I can see all the QHIN traffic for everybody. I also see the legacy network traffic for everybody. I mean,
Hmm.
the beauty of the system actually is the information that's available to us. The actual information that's flowing or the data that's flowing on the QHIN side is doubled in the last year. So we're now
Wow.
up to slightly over 9,000 entities on the QHIN, which translates to 41,000 caregivers. And that's roughly double of what it was last year. You have some of the big EHR vendors saying, hey, we're moving everybody onto TEFCA, off our legacy networks onto TEFCA. When you've got the two largest EMR vendors in the country saying we're doing this, it's going to happen this time.
Hmm.
And if we look at our client base where we've focused on the not on the top two because they already have their QHIN, so we focused on everybody else that doesn't have one.
Hmm.
I mean, one of our EHR clients alone has onboarded, I think something like 45 or 50 hospitals this year and hundreds, if not thousands of physicians. So it's happening. And no, is it happening because people are afraid of being punched? I don't know. But it's happening because there's value there. And I think the other vendors, the other commercial vendors like ourselves, I think we're as a group working very hard to make sure we deliver actionable data to the end user.
Hmm. And so Health Gorilla was one of the original, I believe it was in the inaugural QHIN cohort.
Yep.
It is now in, I guess, the inaugural cohort of CMS aligned networks, if I got the title correct.
Yeah.
Is there what does the new designation entail? And is it the same thing? Or is there, can you help kind of help me understand what if there's a line there?
The answer is if I could answer the question, I would. So,
Okay, I'm
so
glad I'm not the only one confused.
no, but remember, we're early in this. I mean, this whole, I think it was July when the June or July when the whole DC thing happened. And we're starting to see they're lining up, uh, companies like Health Gorilla, where we're putting people on various committees and supporting the efforts. There continues to be movement in greenlighting other use cases. Today, as you probably know, there are only two use cases greenlighted. A treatment use case, which requires a physician at the end of on the receiving end. It makes sense to me. Can't
Hmm.
be a lawyer, can't be whatever, has to be a physician. The other is individual access service, and we're starting to see finally some movement. That was actually unlocked as a use case last summer of 24, but there's been, I would describe it as nominal activity.
Hmm.
And there may or may not have been some information blocking challenges
Hmm.
getting that started. The administration is going to knock down those walls hard.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that opens up the ability for individuals to ensure that their information is shared in a timely fashion. I mean, I tell the story about myself that I moved when I retired in 23. Why am I here? But anyway, I retired in 23.
I know the golf course is looking mighty green.
I should be playing golf. But when I retired in 23 and I moved from Atlanta to North Carolina, here I am, 2 years I've lived here. I'm still sending repeat release of information requests to some very well-known providers in Atlanta. I'm not going to mention any names,
Mhm.
but there's only three. So it 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 just, and I don't think it's nefarious on
Mhm.
their part. There's just no reason for them to do it.
Mhm.
Our belief is that the teeth that'll come into this over the next year of the CMS aligned network or TEFCA, whatever you want to call it, is that you must deliver that information subject to a penalty if you don't.
Mhm.
And, you know, I've seen that scenario. I was in a prior business I was in, I've seen that scenario play out. And unfortunately, it's not an ideal way to get compliance, but you will get compliance.
Right. Rule with the stick. I see how it's not mandatory nor optional. As you kind of look at the current state of interoperability and data exchange in the US, how do you see all these new initiatives, TEFCA getting teeth, how do you see it kind of evolving over the next few years?
Look, think about some good outcomes that could come from this having everything aligned. One is um, the pre-authorization process today between providers and payers is at best arcane, and at its worth, just at its worst, it's just I can't even describe how bad it is. This, when they open up payment and operations, gives us a pathway to ensure that patient information gets shared in a way to go back to my key tenet of all this, which is better patient care, right?
Mhm.
So we see that happening. The other thing, think about this. Uh, one of the one of the biggest problems in healthcare today are recruitment of patients for clinical trials. Using individual access service as an avenue should accelerate identifying individuals to get in clinical trials.
Mhm.
It, I in addition to Health Girl, I'm chairman of a biotech company, and we spend somewhere between $2,500 and $10,000 to recruit a patient for a clinical trial. It's insane. opening up IAS and figuring a mechanism so individuals say, hey, I've been diagnosed with XYZ cancer. Hey, here's a trial. And I can submit my name and all my records can flow.
Mm.
Think how speedy that will be to get patients in those trials. Because we have to, in addition to better patient care, part of better patient care is getting clinical trials finished sooner.
Mm.
All about, again, consistent theme in the health guerrilla world is we want to deliver actionable data to physicians so patients get better care. That will make healthcare tech great. Then we can
Mm.
say again 10 years from now.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting it great first. Yeah, we'll get to it again when we get there. I feel like a lot of times in these conversations, it seems like the holy grail that we're kind of working towards is kind of like a universal patient record or a national ID or something along those lines. Is that something that we'll ever get to, or is that a pipe dream? What is just your kind of take on that?
Uh, I'm almost 70, so it's not going to happen in my lifetime.
Okay.
You're young enough, it can happen in your lifetime. You know, I'm not sure how important that is because the only reason I question how important it is to have a national identifier kind of thing or a single patient record. If I have control as a patient over my clinical information and I can pass it to whomever I want, that's way better than what we have today.
Amen.
Let's go for that.
Hmm.
That would make healthcare tech great, accomplishing that goal. So let's focus on what we can, which I think is accomplished, is something that can be accomplished in the next couple of years.
That's an optimistic future. That's a future that seems more attainable than what I was talking about. And thank you for the work that you're doing to kind of get us there.
Well, look, you've got to pick off things in bite-sized chunks. I mean, over the course of my 45 years in business, I've dealt with state governments, local governments, federal governments, foreign country governments. Government interference is usually bad in my personal opinion, under any scenario, right? And, but this isn't interference. This is enablement of the community to do the right thing for the patient. I think, and this is what I hear when I listen to, Secretary Kennedy and Oz speak. It's about the patient, and I actually believe it.
Mm. Yep. And everything that you're saying rings true to my ears. So, Bob, thanks for coming on the show. Really enjoyed chatting with you. Thanks for catching me and the audience up on TEFCA and the new initiatives coming out of the White House. It was a pleasure.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Jason. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, everyone. That's been the Digital Health Wire show. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.